The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a cathedral made of light and metal. 12 towering pillars rose from the polished floor, each one carved with the symbols of a founding species. Thousands of delegates filled the curved seats that surrounded the central platform, their bodies ranging from humanoid to shapes that defied easy description. The air hummed with translation, devices working overtime to convert 100 languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Kate Morrison walked down the long aisle toward the human delegation seats. She wore a simple gray suit, the official uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her aide, Ben Carter, followed 2 steps behind, carrying a data tablet and trying not to stare at the alien faces watching them pass. Kate had served as Earth's voice in this assembly for 7 years. She knew the politics, the rivalries, and the careful dance of words that kept peace among species who had been traveling the stars, while humans still lived in caves. She also knew that humanity held the lowest position in this room. Earth had joined the galactic community only 40 years ago, a blink of an eye compared to civilizations that measured their histories in tens of thousands of years. The session began with routine business. Trade disputes between the Melthery and the Phoenix combine. A border adjustment in the Outer Rim territories. Kate listened with half an ear, reviewing her notes for the agricultural agreement she planned to propose later in the day. Then Speaker Gyrix rose from his elevated seat. The Volari were insect-like beings, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light like shattered mirrors. Gyrix had led the assembly for 3 decades. His voice, when it came through the translators, carried the weight of absolute authority. The assembly will now address the matter of Earth and its colonial territories. Gyrix announced. Kate looked up from her notes. This was not on the schedule. The chair recognizes the delegate from the Corvani Empire. Gyrix continued. A heavy-set creature with gray skin and small eyes stood from the Corvani section. His name was Garth, and Kate had dealt with him before. He was not known for his kindness. Fellow delegates, Garth began, I wish to speak about a growing problem in our galactic community. I speak of the humans. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Ben leaned forward, his face tight with concern. Kate raised her hand to keep him calm. For 40 years, we have welcomed these creatures into our community, Garth continued. We have shared our technology with them. We have allowed them to establish colonies on worlds they could never have reached alone. We have treated them as equals, even though they live such tragically short lives that they can barely remember the treaties they sign. Laughter echoed from several sections of the hall. Kate kept her face neutral. And what have they given us in return? Garth spread his thick arms wide. Nothing. They take and take. They breed like insects across every world we allow them to touch. They ask for more technology, more territory, more respect. But respect must be earned, not given. The Dralith delegate rose next. The Dralith were tall and thin, with skin the color of burnished copper and eyes that glowed faintly gold. Ambassador Sayla was considered a moderate among her people, but when she spoke, her words cut like knives. My colleague from Kovani speaks truth, Sayla said. The humans call their homeworld Earth, but perhaps we should call it what it truly is, a backwater nursery world for a species that has not yet learned its place. She waved her hand, and a hologram of Earth appeared above the central platform. The blue marble hung in the air, beautiful and fragile. Look at it, Sayla said. One world among billions. One species among thousands. And yet they strut about this assembly as if they matter. As if their opinions carry weight. They do not understand what they are. More laughter. This time, it was louder. Kate stood slowly. If the assembly would permit me to respond, the human delegate will wait her turn, Gyrix interrupted, his compound eyes fixed on her without warmth. The chair has not recognized her. Kate sat back down, Her hands were steady, but inside, her heart was racing. 3 more delegates spoke over the next hour. Each one attacked humanity in different ways. The Valari representative mocked human art and culture. The Multhari delegate questioned whether humans had the intelligence to govern themselves. A minor species Kate barely knew suggested that humanity should be confined to their home system for their own protection, but it was High Speaker Gyrix himself who delivered the final blow. "This assembly has been patient with Earth," he said, rising to his full height. "Too patient, perhaps. The humans have colonies on 17 worlds. 17 worlds that could be put to better use by more capable species. I propose that we discuss the redistribution of these territories to founding members who can properly develop them." The hall erupted in applause from nearly half the delegates. Kate rose again. This time, she did not ask for permission. "The human delegation requests a formal recess," she said. Her voice was calm, but it carried across the hall. "We must consult with our government before responding to this proposal." Gyrix made a sound that the translator rendered as amusement. "Of course. Run back to your masters, little ambassador. Ask them what to do. We will wait." More laughter followed Kate and Ben as they walked out of the great hall. The doors closed behind them with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. In the private quarters assigned to Earth's delegation, Kate stood at the window, looking out at the stars. Ben paced behind her, his face red with anger. "They planned this," Ben said. "This whole thing was coordinated. They want to take everything from us." "Yes," Kate agreed. "They do. What are we going to do? We can't fight them. Our fleet is nothing compared to theirs. The treaties we signed limit our weapons, our ship numbers, everything." Kate turned from the window. Her eyes held something Ben had never seen before. Not fear, not despair, but something cold and hard. "The treaties limit what they know about," she said quietly. She walked to the communication console and entered a code that Ben did not recognize. The screen flickered, and suddenly they were connected to a secure channel that bypassed every normal diplomatic route. Admiral Sam Novak appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen 2A battles. He wore a uniform that bore no rank insignia, no unit patches, nothing that could be identified. "Ambassador," Novak said, "we've been watching the feed. I'm sorry you had to endure that." "Don't be sorry, Admiral," Kate replied. "Be ready. They've crossed the line. Initiate protocol midnight." Novak nodded slowly. There was no surprise in his face, only grim acceptance. "Understood. God help us all." The screen went dark. Kate stood in silence for a long moment, then turned to Ben. "Pack your things," she said. "We're leaving Nexus Prime tonight. And Ben? Everything changes now." Outside the window, the stars burned on, indifferent to the storm that was about to break across the galaxy. The Global Defense Council met in a bunker 300 meters beneath the streets of Geneva. The room had no windows, no decoration, and no comfort. It was built for one purpose: to make decisions that could not be made in public. Secretary General Daniel Pierce sat at the head of the long table. He was 62 years old, with silver hair and the tired eyes of a man who had spent his life carrying impossible burdens. Around him sat the most powerful people on Earth: generals, admirals, intelligence chiefs, and heads of state from the major nations. Admiral Sam Novak stood at the front of the room, his face lit by the glow of a massive display screen. "What you are about to see was recorded 6 hours ago at Nexus Prime," Novak said. "Ambassador Morrison risked her career to get this footage out through secure channels. I want you to watch it in full before we discuss our options." The screen flickered to life. For the next 90 minutes, the leaders of Earth watched their ambassador being humiliated. They heard the laughter, the mockery, and the casual cruelty of beings who considered humanity less than nothing. When Gyrix proposed taking their colonies, Several people in the room stood up in anger. Pierce raised his hand, and they sat back down. When the recording ended, silence filled the bunker. "They want to strip us of everything," Pierce said finally. "Our colonies, our resources, our future. And they expect us to accept it quietly." "This was not random," said Commander Grace Liu. She was a small woman with sharp features and sharper eyes. She led Earth's Strategic Intelligence Division, a department that officially did not exist. "We have been monitoring alien communications for years. The Valari, Corvani, and Dralith have been meeting in secret for at least 2 years. They call their plan the reduction. Their goal is to turn humanity into a dependent species, workers and servants with no power of our own." "Why?" asked the president of the European Federation. "What have we done to them?" "We grew too fast," Lee replied. 40 years ago, we were nothing. Now we have 17 colonies, a growing population, and technology that is catching up to theirs faster than they expected. They see us as a threat. Not today, not tomorrow, but in 100 years. They want to cut us down before we become too strong to control." General Tony Vance stood up from his chair. He was a big man, built like a soldier, with a voice that could fill a battlefield. He commanded Earth's Space Force, the official military branch that protected human territory in space. "Then we fight," Vance said. "We may be outnumbered, but we are not helpless. The treaties limit our military capacity," another general reminded him. "We are allowed only defensive weapons and a fleet of 200 ships. They have thousands. The treaties limit what they know about," Pierce said quietly. Every eye in the room turned to him. Pierce looked at Admiral Novak and nodded. Novak pressed a button on his control panel, and the display changed. Instead of the recording from Nexus Prime, it showed something else entirely. Blueprints, ship designs, and a map of the solar system marked with hundreds of red dots. "For 30 years, Novak began, humanity has been preparing for this day. We hoped it would never come. We built our official fleet according to treaty limits. We smiled at alien inspectors and showed them exactly what they expected to see. But in the shadows, we built something else." He pointed to the map. "Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Underground facilities on Titan and Europa. Deep space stations disguised as mining platforms. In these places, away from alien sensors, we have constructed a fleet that no one knows about." "How many ships?" Vance asked, his voice rough with sudden hope. "Over 2,000 combat-ready vessels," Novak replied. "Carriers, destroyers, cruisers, and support craft. All of them equipped with weapons that violate every treaty we ever signed. Directed energy weapons, gravity manipulation systems, electronic warfare suites that can blind enemy sensors. We took every piece of alien technology we could study and made it better." The room erupted in murmurs. Pierce let the noise continue for a moment before raising his hand again. "There is more," he said. "Show them the gates." Novak changed the display once more. This time, it showed a network of connected points spanning dozens of star systems. "Jump gates," Novak explained. "The aliens control the existing network. If we use their gates, they know where we go and when. They can shut off our access any time they choose. So we built our own. A complete network that connects Earth to every human colony through routes the aliens cannot monitor or control." "How is this possible?" the Chinese premier asked. "The technology to build jump gates was supposed to be beyond us for centuries. We let them believe that," Liu said with a small smile. "We have learned much from studying their technology. And perhaps we are not as primitive as they think." Pierce stood and walked to the center of the room. His voice was steady but heavy with the weight of what he was about to say. "We have 2 choices," he said. "We can go back to Nexus Prime with our heads bowed and beg for mercy. We can accept whatever scraps they throw to us and hope that they do not destroy us completely. Or we can stand up. We can show them that humanity is not weak, that we are not children to be pushed around. He paused, looking at each person in the room. If we choose to fight, there is no going back. We will tear up every treaty, every agreement, every promise we have made. We will become outlaws in the eyes of galactic law. Some of us will die. Many of us will die. But our children will be free. The vote was called. One by one, the leaders of Earth raised their hands. The decision was unanimous. At midnight, Geneva time, Secretary General Daniel Pierce signed Executive Order 7701. The document was short, but its meaning was vast. Earth formally withdrew from every galactic treaty, trade agreement, and mutual defense pact. Effective immediately, humanity was no longer bound by any agreement made with alien powers. As Pierce signed his name, the first messages were already going out to human colonies across 17 worlds. Military units were activated. Hidden shipyards began powering up their construction base. Orbital defense platforms that had been dormant for years received new orders. In embassies across Earth, alien diplomats woke to find their credentials revoked. Transport ships waited outside to take them home. Those who protested were escorted firmly but politely to the waiting vessels. "You cannot do this," the Valari ambassador shouted as he was led to a ship. "There will be war." The human officer escorting him said nothing. There was nothing left to say. By dawn, the last alien diplomat had left Earth. The planet fell silent, but it was not the silence of surrender. It was the silence of a storm gathering strength. The quiet moment before thunder shakes the sky. Across the galaxy, humanity's enemies would soon learn a terrible truth. They had mistaken patience for weakness, and that mistake would cost them everything. 3 weeks after Kate Morrison's speech at Nexus Prime, the first enemy fleet crossed into human space. The combined force numbered over 400 ships from 3 species. The Valari contributed their massive hive carriers, each one capable of launching thousands of fighter drones. The Corvani brought their heavy cruisers, armored beasts designed to smash through enemy lines. The Dralith added their speed-sleek hunter ships that could outrun almost anything in space. Their target was Callisto, the 4th largest moon of Jupiter and home to one of humanity's most important mining colonies. 40,000 people lived in the underground cities carved into the frozen rock. The attackers expected an easy victory, a show of force to prove that humanity's hidden fleet was no match for the founding species. They were wrong. Admiral Sam Novak watched the enemy approach from the bridge of the carrier Horizons Edge. The ship was enormous, nearly 2 kilometers long, with enough firepower to level a small continent. Around it, the 4th Fleet waited in formation, 300 vessels ready for battle. Captain Amy Tran stood at the tactical station, her fingers moving across holographic displays. She had spent 15 years preparing for this moment, training in simulations so realistic that the real thing felt almost familiar. "Enemy fleet will be in range in 12 minutes, she reported. "They're coming in fast." "Standard attack formation." Novak nodded slowly. "Standard formation. That's what I expected. They think this will be easy." Commander Derek Shaw's voice crackled over the communication channel from his position at the head of the interceptor squadrons. "Admiral, we're ready to launch on your order. My pilots are eager to show these bastards what we can do." "Hold your position, Commander," Novak replied. "Let them come to us. We want them close." The alien fleet swept toward Callisto with the confidence of predators. Admiral Gyrol of the Valari commanded the combined force. He had fought dozens of battles in his long life and had never lost. To him, the human fleet was an annoyance larger than expected. Yes, but still primitive. His sensors showed no unusual energy readings, no special weapons. Just ships floating in space, waiting to be destroyed. "All units, begin attack run," Gyrol ordered. Destroy their carriers first. The smaller ships will scatter when their command structure falls. The alien fleet accelerated. Fighters launched from the Valari hive carriers like swarms of angry insects. Kovani cruisers powered up their main guns. Dralath hunters spread out to flank the human formation. 10,000 kilometers. 8,000. 5,000. Admiral, Captain Tran said quietly, "They're in range." Novak took a deep breath. "All ships, activate gravity systems. Show them what we've built." Across the human fleet, weapons that had never been seen in galactic warfare came online. Gravity projectors, devices that could manipulate the fundamental force that held the universe together. The technology had taken 20 years to perfect, based on principles the aliens had abandoned centuries ago as impractical. The first wave of Valari fighters flew into an invisible wall. Space itself twisted around them. The fighters crumpled like paper, crushed by gravity wells 1,000 times stronger than anything they were designed to handle. Hundreds of drones died in seconds, compressed into balls of twisted metal no larger than a fist. Gyro watched his screens in disbelief. "What is happening? Report." "Unknown weapon, Admiral," his tactical officer replied, his voice shaking. "They're manipulating gravity fields. Our fighters cannot approach." "Then send the cruisers." "Nothing can stop Corvani armor." The heavy cruisers charged forward, their massive hulls built to absorb punishment that would destroy lesser ships. They fired as they came, filling space with blazing energy beams. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Ships that had seemed like easy targets suddenly demonstrated speed and agility that should have been impossible for vessels their size. The Corvani beams hit empty space where human ships had been moments before. "Interceptors launch," Novak ordered. Commander Shaw led his squadrons into the chaos. Human fighters were smaller than their Valari counterparts, but far more maneuverable. Each pilot had trained for years in simulators that perfectly replicated alien technology. They knew exactly how their enemies would move, exactly where to aim. The battle became a slaughter. Dralath hunters, the fastest ships in the alien fleet, found themselves matched by human vessels that refused to behave according to any tactical model. When they tried to flank the human formation, they ran into walls of coordinated fire to cut them apart. Their speed meant nothing when the enemy seemed to know exactly where they would be. Kovani cruisers discovered that their famous armor was useless against weapons that ignored physical barriers. Human ships carried EMP generators that could disable enemy systems from kilometers away. Cruisers that had survived countless battles suddenly went dark, their crews trapped in metal coffins drifting through space. The Valari hive carriers tried to retreat, but it was too late. Human destroyers had circled behind them, cutting off their escape. One by one, the great carriers were surrounded and neutralized, their drone base destroyed, their command structures targeted with surgical precision. Admiral Gyro gave the order to retreat after 4 hours of fighting. By then, nearly half his fleet was gone, destroyed, disabled, or captured. His flagship barely escaped, limping away with damage to every major system. On the bridge of Horizon's Edge, Admiral Novak watched the enemy flee. Around him, his crew cheered and embraced each other. But Novak did not celebrate. His face was grim as he looked at the casualty reports coming in. The Fourth Fleet had won, but at a cost. 67 human ships destroyed. Over 8,000 men and women dead. Each name on the list was a person Novak had sworn to protect. A family that would receive terrible news in the coming hours. Captain Tran approached him quietly. "Admiral, Command is requesting your report." Novak nodded. "Tell them the battle is over. We held Callisto. The enemy has withdrawn." He paused, looking out at the debris field that had once been 2 fleets. "Tell them this is only the beginning." Across the galaxy, news of the Battle of Callisto spread within hours. The founding species had expected an easy victory. Instead, they had suffered their worst defeat in centuries. Neutral species, who had watched from the sidelines, began to reconsider their positions. The Denari Collective sent quiet messages to Earth, asking about diplomatic possibilities. Others followed. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and everyone could feel it. On Earth, Secretary General Pierce addressed the planet. His words were simple but powerful. Today, our sons and daughters proved that humanity cannot be bullied, cannot be threatened, and cannot be destroyed. We did not choose this war, but we will finish it. To those who died defending Callisto, your sacrifice will never be forgotten. To those who still stand, be proud. The galaxy knows our name now. In the cold darkness of space, the wreckage of the battle drifted silently. Metal fragments tumbled past frozen bodies, all of it slowly falling into Jupiter's gravity. The first great battle was over, but the war had just begun. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Callisto, and the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The Valari, Kavani, and Drellith had expected other founding species to join their war against humanity. They sent diplomats to every major power, demanding solidarity, calling for a united front against the human threat. But their calls went unanswered. The problem was simple. The other 9 founding species had watched Callisto. They had seen what human technology could do. They had calculated the cost of war against an enemy with hidden fleets and weapons that defied their understanding. And they had decided, quietly but firmly, that this was not their fight. The Melthari were the first to officially declare neutrality. The Phoenix Combine followed within days. One by one, the founding species stepped back from the conflict, leaving the 3 aggressors isolated and alone. On Earth, Secretary General Daniel Pierce understood what was happening. The old order was breaking apart. Now was the time to build something new. He addressed the galaxy through an open broadcast that reached every corner of known space. Unlike the angry speeches of alien leaders, Pierce's words were calm and measured. Humanity did not seek this conflict, he began. We asked only for respect, for the chance to grow and learn alongside the older civilizations of this galaxy. That request was denied. When we dared to defend ourselves, we were called criminals and outlaws. But look at us now. We still stand. Our colonies are safe. Our people are free. He paused, letting his words reach across light years to every ship, every station, every world with a receiver. We did not build our fleet to conquer. We built it so that no one could ever treat us as lesser beings again. And now, to any species willing to meet us as equals, we extend our hand in friendship. We offer fair trade, mutual defense, and the chance to build something better than the old hierarchy that has ruled this galaxy for too long. The response came faster than anyone expected. The Denari Collective sent diplomats to Earth within a week. They were a peaceful species, traders and scientists who had long been overshadowed by the military powers of the Founding Council. For centuries, they had accepted their low position because they saw no alternative. Now they saw one. Ambassador Kellen met with Secretary General Pierce in Geneva. The meeting lasted 3 days. When it ended, the 2 leaders announced the formation of a new alliance. The Coalition of Free Worlds. Other species followed the Denari. Some were minor powers who had suffered under the founding species' dominance. Others were medium-sized civilizations who saw opportunity in the new order. Within 3 months, the coalition had grown to include 14 member species, with more requesting membership every week. The Valari, Kavani, and Drellith watched their influence crumble. Their trade networks collapsed as merchants chose safer routes through coalition space. Their military alliances fell apart as former allies declared neutrality. Their economies suffered as the resources of human colonies' resources they had planned to steal remained. Firmly in human hands, High Speaker Gyrix resigned his position after a vote of no confidence in the Galactic Assembly. He retreated to his homeworld in disgrace, his name forever linked to the greatest failure in Valari history. The other two aggressors replaced their leaders as well, each one trying to distance themselves from the disaster. In the end, it was the Corvani who broke first. Their new High Chancellor sent a private message to Earth, requesting peace talks. Pierce agreed, but he set the terms. The negotiations would be public, broadcast to the entire galaxy. The Corvani had humiliated humanity in front of everyone. Now they would admit their mistakes the same way. The peace treaty was signed on Nexus Prime, in the same great hall where Kate Morrison had been mocked just 8 months earlier. The Corvani agreed to pay reparations, return captured human ships, and formally recognize humanity as an equal power. The Dralath signed a similar treaty 2 weeks later. The Valari held out for another month before accepting reality. When the final document was signed, Ambassador Kate Morrison stood at the center of the hall. She had been chosen to lead the newly formed Coalition of Free Worlds, not through conquest or force, but through a unanimous vote of its member species. They trusted her wisdom, her patience, and her steel. Ben Carr stood beside her, now carrying the title of Senior Diplomatic Advisor. He had come a long way from the nervous aide who had accompanied her to that first terrible session. "I remember standing in this hall," Kate said to the assembled delegates. "I remember your laughter. I remember being told that humanity should be grateful you allowed us to exist. I remember the moment I realized that some of you truly believed we were nothing." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of delegates from 100 worlds. "We are not nothing. We never were. We were simply waiting, watching, learning. And when you forced us to act, we were ready." Her voice softened slightly. "But we did not come here for revenge. We came here to build a future, not just for humanity, but for every species tired of being told they do not matter. The Coalition of Free Worlds is not an empire. It is a promise that strength will not be used to oppress, that treaties will be honored, and that every species, old or new, large or small, will be treated with dignity." She turned to face the section where the former aggressors sat, their faces carefully neutral. "To the Valari, Corvani, and Dralath, we do not ask for your apology. We do not need it. What happened cannot be undone. But the future is not yet written. If you wish to join us as partners, the door is open. If you choose to stand apart, that is your right. We will not force anyone to accept our friendship." Cade stepped back from the speaking platform. The hall was silent, but it was not the hostile silence she remembered from before. This was something different. It was the quiet of people thinking, reconsidering, perhaps even hoping. Months later, the Dhanari would establish the first joint research station with human scientists. The coalition would grow to include 30 member species. Human technology would spread across the galaxy, not through conquest, but through trade and cooperation. The Jump Gate network built in secret would become the backbone of a new economic system, connecting worlds that had been isolated for millennia. And Kate Morrison would often think back to that first moment of humiliation, when she had stood alone in the Great Hall while aliens laughed at her species. She had not known then what would follow. She had only known that humanity would not accept defeat. 40 years of patience. 30 years of secret preparation. One terrible decision that changed everything. The old powers had called humanity children. They had been wrong. Humanity was not young. Humanity was ancient in spirit, forged by countless struggles, tempered by fire and ice and the endless darkness of space. They had survived everything the universe had thrown at them. And now, at last, the galaxy understood what that meant. The stars had never looked brighter. News of Earth's withdrawal spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every major power knew what had happened. Within days, the chaos began. The Valari High Council demanded an immediate explanation. The Kovani Empire recalled its merchant fleets from human space and began mobilizing its military. The Dralith cut all communication channels with Earth. Smaller species watched from the sidelines, unsure what to make of the sudden upheaval. On Nexus Prime, High Speaker Gyrix called an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly. The Great Hall was filled to capacity, with delegates shouting over each other and demanding action. Gyrix had to strike his staff against the floor 3 times before order was restored. "The humans have gone mad," Gyrix declared. "They reject our authority. They reject our treaties. They reject the very foundation of galactic civilization. This cannot be allowed to stand." The Kovani delegate Gorath rose from his seat, his gray face dark with anger. "I move that we declare humanity in violation of galactic law and authorize military action to restore order." Cheers erupted from the Volari and Corvani sections. The Dralith added their voices to the chorus, but before the vote could be called, the doors to the Great Hall opened. Ambassador Kate Morrison walked in. She was not alone. Behind her marched 12 officers in crisp black uniforms that no alien had ever seen before. Their insignia showed a simple design, Earth with a ring of stars around it, and the words United Earth Navy written below. The hall fell silent. Thousands of alien eyes watched as Kate walked calmly to the human delegation's platform and stepped up to the speaking position. "High Speaker," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I thank you for calling this session. It saves me the trouble of requesting one myself." Gyrix's compound eyes narrowed. "You have no standing here, Ambassador. Earth is withdrawn from our community. You are not welcome. And yet here I am," Kate replied with a small smile. "I came to deliver a message that every species in this hall needs to hear." She pressed a button on her control pad. The holographic display above the central platform flickered to life, showing the seal of the United Earth Government. "For 40 years, humanity has been a member of this community," Kate began. "We signed your treaties. We followed your rules. We limited our military, restricted our technology, and accepted our place at the bottom of your hierarchy. We did all of this because we believed in cooperation. We believed that if we showed good faith, you would eventually accept us as equals." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We were wrong." The display changed. It now showed a map of human space Earth, its 17 colonies, and the trade routes connecting them. "You saw our patience as weakness," Kate continued. "You saw our cooperation as submission. You thought you could take everything from us because we had nothing to fight back with. But here's the truth. While you laughed at us, while you mocked our short lives and primitive culture, we were building." The display changed again. This time, it showed something that made the entire hall gasp. Ships. Thousands of them. Carriers larger than anything the Volari had ever built. Sleek destroyers bristling with weapons. Support vessels and troop transports filling the space between. The fleet filled the display, arranged in perfect formation. "The United Earth Navy," Kate announced. "Over 2,000 warships, hidden in deep space where your sensors could not find them. Built in secret shipyards across our solar system. Crewed by men and women who trained for years without ever appearing on any official record." Gorath jumped to his feet. "This is a trick. A hologram created to frighten us. You could never have built such a fleet without our knowledge." "Shall I prove it?" Kate asked calmly. She pressed another button. The display shifted to show a live feed from space. The view focused on the edge of the Sol system, near the asteroid belt. As the delegates watched, a shimmer appeared in the void. Then another. Then dozens more dot ships materialized out of nothing, their cloaking fields deactivating one by one. Within minutes, a full battle group had appeared, where there had been only empty space moments before. The hall was completely silent. "We also built our own jump gate network," Kate continued. "Completely independent of your system. We can move our fleet anywhere in human space within hours. We can reinforce any colony, strike any target, and withdraw before you can respond. Your control over our movement is over." The Dralath ambassador Sayla stood, her golden eyes burning with fury. "You have violated every treaty you ever signed. You have deceived us. You are criminals." "We are survivors," Kate replied. "You call us criminals because we refuse to be victims. You plan to take our worlds, reduce our people to servants, and erase our future. Did you think we would not prepare? Did you think we would simply accept destruction?" She turned to address the entire assembly, raising her voice to reach every corner of the Great Hall. 30 years ago, our leaders realized the truth. They saw how this galaxy treats the weak. They understood that treaties only protect those who have the power to enforce them. So they made a choice. They built our strength in secret, hoping it would never be needed, but ready to use it if it was. Kate stepped forward, her eyes fixed on High Speaker Gyrix. "You thought you were dealing with children," she said. "You were wrong. You were dealing with a species that has survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and near extinction. We have fought our way through every disaster the universe has thrown at us. We are still here, and we will not be pushed aside by beings who mistake age for wisdom." Gyrix raised himself to his full height. "This changes nothing. Even with your hidden fleet, you cannot stand against the combined might of the founding species. We will crush you." Kate smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then come. Attack our colonies. Invade our worlds. Send your fleets against ours. But know this, we have nothing left to lose. We have already been condemned. Everything we build from this day forward will be built on our own terms, not yours. And when your soldiers face ours, they will learn what happens when you corner a species that refuses to die." She turned and began walking toward the exit, her officers following in perfect formation. "Wait," called a voice from the neutral sections. It belonged to Ambassador Kellen of the Denari Collective, a species known for staying out of conflicts. "What do you want, Ambassador Morrison? What is Earth asking for?" Kate paused at the doors and looked back. "We wanted respect," she said. "We wanted to be treated as equals. You refused to give us that, so now we will take it. And if any species in this hall wants to deal with humanity fairly, our channels are open. But we will never again bow to those who see us as lesser beings." The doors closed behind her. The silence in the Great Hall lasted a very long time. The galaxy had changed, and everyone in that room knew it.